Netball League online show for this Wednesday night. They may call it the B team, but we may in fact dispute that. Matty Stewart is on holidays this week, sunning himself in good old Bali, and Trent Hill is on a school camp. So you're stuck with me, Philip Kelly, and my co-host tonight. He needs no introduction to Hampton League Live. Greg Kelson, how are you?
Hey, Poss, how's things, mate?
I'm going well. Now, they say it could be the B team, but we'll call it the A team. And
we're the reserves, mate.
We are the reserves. Now, speaking of the reserves, it's a nice little segue because we've got a little function to attend on Saturday afternoon, which has been an absolute treat by yourself to get this together so quickly. 1983 Reserves Premiership. We beat Colac up at Mortlake by 1 point, and we're having a little bit of a drink together up at the South Warrnambool Tring Mortlake.
Well, any excuse, I guess, Poss. But it's so important, isn't it, reunions, and I think they become more important as you get older. And this is, for want of a better word, just a seconds flag. But nonetheless, we experienced a great day, didn't we? And it's great to be able to get there and tell everyone how good we were. And it's funny, I was trumped this week because a fellow came into work and he played in the 1963 seconds premiership for South Warrnambool. He said, well, I've beaten you by 20 years. So, they're just important things to have, and it'll be a great little get-together, Poss.
Yeah, they are, and you've done a treat, Oz. You really have a few messages to and froing, and a coincidence that one of those guys from that premiership, Paul Chandler, just happened to be in Australia from Hong Kong, where he now resides. He's going to be home that week, this weekend.
We can say they've travelled from Hong Kong, can't we?
Absolutely,
so,
absolutely.
It's great.
And we shouldn't move on without mentioning our great mate too, Oz. Terry Kelly, who's a member of that premiership team that year and played a lot of games with South, and of course went on to coach Merivale to some success. And unfortunately for Terry, lost his wife Glenda last Friday night / Saturday morning, and we send out our condolences to
100%
to Terry, of course.
And I know you'd be affected too.
Yeah,
obviously.
well, Glenda was my sister-in-law,
and a great friendship, you two. I know that. So
terrific.
Thoughts are with you too, Poss, and to everyone involved. I think everyone in footy circles knows Zeke.
Yep.
And as a footballer, you couldn't get a more committed bloke, and as a bloke, just a ripper. So yeah, we're very sorry for everyone involved there.
Yeah, absolutely. And like always happens in these circumstances, people have rallied around and have been terrific. So we thank anyone that's listening out there that's had some sort of an involvement or a message.
Poss, they've been together. I think childhood sweethearts, forever. So it's very, very sad. And as I said, Zeke was a part of that side as a young bloke back then too. Yep,
absolutely. Of course, we can't have these great shows without our sponsors, and we've got plenty of them. McDonald's, City Power and Paracore, Lindot Living, SunGold Milk, Southwest TAFE, Lucas Brothers Butchers, of course, they supply our snag of the day each and every Saturday. Fresh R&M Security, Southwest Tools and Industrial, the Warrnambool Footy Club, and of course here at Fitz Media Productions and the Silver Ball Studios. We've got two very, very special guests. One of them is a guy who is back on the track. He's had a bit of an interrupted season this year due to injury, but managed to chalk up his 100th game there a couple of weeks ago against his old side, Warrnambool, and we speak of Corey Gallichan. Corey, good evening.
How you going, boys?
Going well, mate, and you're travelling okay too, the Roosters, and you just mentioning off air there before that you're starting to get a full complement of players back. You're sitting on top of the ladder, 2 games clear. Very, very unlikely, as a matter of fact, certainly won't finish any lower than top spot. So you're in a good position to have a real crack at it towards the end of the year.
Yeah, we've set ourselves up really well, boys. And yeah, we've had our injury troubles throughout the year, but we're getting most of the squad back coming into finals, which is great, which means it's competitive for spots. And but yeah, that's a great thing for us. And yeah, we're just looking forward to this back end of the year now.
Yeah, and Corey, I guess most of the discussion around the competition is, about South Warrnambool, if they can be full strength and when they can be full strength. They've certainly got a lethal combination. Do you think most of those fellas are going to get back?
Yeah, 100%. We've got Jonah Marr hopefully be back this week. Ben Rantel's not far away either. He's running again. And of course, Archie, when his foot settles down, he's been on the Alter G machine up at Carlton, so he's getting back into it. And of course, you know, we've got George and Lamont there potentially, depending on the Rebels' commitments. And, yeah, I think, pretty much full strength then. So, yeah, in the coming weeks, I'm sure they'll be back on the track, those boys.
Corey, you've got a really, really good competitive run home, which I think being 2 games clear on top of the ladder, you would really relish. Of course, you've got a huge game this week, end up at the friendlies against Tring Mortlake. Then you finish with North Warrnambool out at Bushfield. You got Cobden at home. And then, of course, your last game of the year, you've got to travel over to Portland. So your next 3 games are going to be against teams who are going to play finals. So it's a nice little way to prepare yourself.
Yep, spot on. It's a good rehearsal for the finals. More than likely meet some of those teams again. So, it starts this weekend with Terang. Obviously, they knocked us off last time up there. So, we've taken some learnings away and we'll look to implement them this week and, hopefully, get over the top of them.
And Corey, Terang Mortlake, they've probably been in a similar position from an injury point of view where they've played some great footy, but they haven't always had their best cattle out there. What areas do you think you need to improve on from the last time you played them to get the points Saturday?
It was definitely our first quarter. We were slow to get going. Around the contest, we were probably lacking a little bit early. So once we cleaned that up, I think we pretty much matched them for the rest of the game. So it's just that first quarter that we really need to rectify. And our last 2 or 3 games, we've come out firing in the first quarter. So fingers crossed we can do that again this weekend. And just getting on top of the contest, that's where it's all starts. So, that's where we're looking to beat them.
And mate, 12 wins and just a couple of losses with a percentage of 213. And I think it's fair to say that one of South's Achilles' heels, if you like, over the last couple of years is they haven't been able to kick a big score. But that percentage suggests that you're kicking scores every week. And obviously, if you've got a forward line that's firing, it helps and goes a long way to winning games.
Yeah, I agree, but it's definitely our defence too that they're holding teams to not much either. So obviously, we have had a habit of not putting big scores on the board, but Hamilton was a perfect example where we were able to execute really well and put the score on the scoreboard and really put them away. So it's been good. We've got a lot of options up forward. Will White kicked 8 last game. We got Shannon, Big Smell, Ricky down there. So we've got plenty of options, which is great.
Hey, Corey, your home ground, of course, is the friendlies, and it's probably more confined than a lot of the grounds and probably a little bit, or not a little bit, it's smaller than the grounds that we're most likely to be playing finals on. Do you feel like you're better suited to the smaller grounds, or do you reckon your game's going to go to maybe another level when you get onto some of those bigger tracks?
Look, the last game against Hamilton at the Reed, I think, Hamilton is struggling a little bit with personnel and whatnot, but the way we played for 4 quarters on that ground, the way we ran and spread and changed the angles on the ground, I think the big ground's going to suit us down to a T. So I feel like our game style can be adapted to whichever ground we need to play at. But, we've got a lot of runners in the team, a lot of leg speed, and I think, that was on show at the Reed the other week.
Corey, mate, it's been a fantastic season thus far for the Roosters. There's still a little bit of work to do before we hit September and the business end of the season. You're back on deck and back out playing, which is fantastic after a bit of an interrupted injury season. You've chalked up your 100th game. You'll be looking forward to cementing your place in that side now, mate, for the remainder of the year. Good luck this week against Tring Mortlake up at the friendlies. It's our broadcast game, so we'll be up there and it should be a very, very good contest.
Thanks, boys. Appreciate it.
Good on you. Corey Gallichan, he's a ripper eyes, and he's got better since he crossed from the Blues, I think, isn't he?
Well, I think so, and he's just a part of that really even spread of good players at South. They've got a lot of them, haven't they?
Yeah, they have.
He probably flies under the radar a fraction, and yet in some sides, I think he'd be their star, wouldn't he?
Yeah. Absolutely he would be. No, he's a very, very good player, and his team, the South Warrnambool Roosters, are cruising along nicely. He's another, our second guest tonight. Of course, he needs no introduction to Hampden Football Netball League. He's an absolute superstar in the coaching ranks, and I speak of Adam Dowie. Wigsy, good evening.
G'day, boys. How you going?
Going well, mate.
Going very well, mate. Thanks for jumping on. And
No worries.
another big game for you boys this weekend, of course, taking on Port Fairy, who are in pretty good form. And I know we've spoken about it before, Wigsy, when we've done Hampden League Live, when we've spoken to you directly. But from a coaching point of view, it's probably not 100% comfortable from us people looking in. It's been a fantastic season. If you look at the ladder, you guys are currently sitting in third spot on 36 points, just 6 points clear of the opposition that you'll come up against on Saturday. So there's no rest for the wicked, mate. You've got to run this race right to the finish line.
Yeah, no, spot on, boys. I've just sort of probably started looking at the ladder, and you look at how close it is, and yeah, look, I think I've said this a few times. I think big picture, look in terms of Hampden League footy, I think it's been a fantastic season, and yeah, look, we've got obviously Port Fairy this week, then we got South, and then we got Warrnambool at the Root. I went and watched a bit of that last week, and they looked, special on their home ground, big ground, hard ground, and then we finished Croydon. So we've got a really good. And you talk about South Warrnambool's good run in the finals. We do as well. So hopefully we're going to get there. But the old cliche, one game at a time. And Port Fairy, we had a good win against them the first round, but personnel wise, they're looking a bit different now, and they're really up and going. And they haven't been winning, which they have mostly. They've been really super competitive. So. Look, it's going to be a really, really tough contest. So, and look, to be honest, looking forward to it.
Hey, Wigsy, I know you're a coach that certainly looks and works on the positives, but there was a real negative for you with Nathan Vardy, of course, going down. It probably, sent reverberations right through the competition. How do you think you've covered that loss, and what have you sort of done to cover that loss?
Yeah, good question, Eyes. Look, obviously, I think when Vards actually did his knee, and we knew instantly that, I think you guys might have been at the game covering it, but I think we knew we were in trouble. And Ben Muggerin was doing the running. I grabbed him at half time. I said, mate, you've got to play next week. So look, you're never going to replace Vards, but certainly, Ben Muggerin coming in, and Jarvis Birmingham's pretty amazing story. I've been coaching for a long time, and I don't think Jarvis was playing footy in March, let alone January and February. So, but Jarvis he's been terrific. He's really raw. But between those two, and look, Angus Noski was doing a bit of ruck work before Ben started playing and Jarvis started playing. So, look, you're never going to replace Vards in the middle and then up forward. But look, Jarvis and Ben both have their own strengths that they bring to the game. So Ben's more of a stand and wrestle, whereas Jarvis is a bit of a get a run and jump. So hopefully that bit of unpredictability will help us a bit.
And Wigsy, was there any challenge to keep your players positive as such? Because it can be easy to drop the head a fraction when you lose one of your stars. Did you find that was any sort of a challenge for you?
Yeah, look, maybe a little bit, mate. Look, we've been like Adam Wines has missed, I think, 7 games this year as well. So, and look, even losing players over the off season, like we had a number of departures. So, coming off a losing grand final, so again at Croydon. So I feel like this adversity. We've faced a fair bit of adversity, and then obviously coming off COVID as well. So I think you just get used to it. So look, it makes people a little bit flat, but crisis creates opportunity. So again, we can't dwell on it. It's just sort of moving on. But yeah, like I said, our group are pretty resilient and pretty positive. So. Look, they might have initially gone, oh, that's no good. I must admit, I still think that a bit, but you can't dwell on it.
Yeah. Mate, I just want to go back quickly to the ruck situation, Adam, and Jarvis Birmingham you mentioned. I think it's a perfect foil for Benny Muggerman coming in. You mentioned that you grabbed him and said, I want you to play next week. I'm not sure if that was the end of the conversation or whether you had more of a conversation through that next week. But I think it's a really good scenario. Ben's obviously kept himself in good nick by doing the running. But he's a bit versatile as well. He can sort of play back. You can chuck him forward if you need to. And he can just keep an eye on things. If young Jarvis is potentially getting beat in the ruck, he can throw him in there. So it's not all doom and gloom. I think it's a perfect scenario for a good replacement, to back up a young player.
Yeah, no, for sure, mate. And again, Ben's his team first. And to answer your question, we had a couple of conversations that week. We've been having conversations sort of all year. And then it sort of got to, hey, mate, we need you. Because actually, I was really unsure about what would be our other option. And Ben said, yeah, no worries. So, but look, he's shown in big games that he can really stand up. And he's done it a number of times. So, again, yeah, look, it could go forward. Could go back if he needs to, and even Jarvis is starting to get his confidence up in terms of being able to, if he's not rucking, it's probably been a fair bit. If he's not rucking, he's been on the bench, but now we're sort of throwing him forward a little bit, so he'll just hopefully continue to improve and get better.
Dylan Parrish, where's he at, mate? I know he's had a bit of an interrupted year with injury. I think if he wasn't in the seniors last time, he must be pretty close. I think he's been playing resis.
Yeah, look, mate, Dylan's been really, really busy with work. Like, when you sort of said to Dylan, it should have been probably, 10, 11, 12 weeks ago, just try and train once a week. Probably since then, he's probably trained 3 times. So, getting to training's been a real issue. And look, I've had this conversation with different people around the club. So you go, well, and again, the temptation's there, but are you doing the right thing by Dylan, also by, the other members in the team in terms of, playing someone who hasn't been able to do the work? It's not probably through any fault of his own. So it's a real tricky one. We're obviously getting to the pointy end now where, if we can find a role, and again we can find that compromise, then we probably just about have to play. But we're mindful of a couple of things though. Like, you've got Charlie McKinnon's come in, you've got Tom Batten playing centre forward. You might have your Benner and Jarvis. So part of forward line these days, you got to keep the ball in there. So you just don't want to go too big, because then it's bouncing out really quick, and that's just putting increased pressure on you, like your Felix Joneses and your Judy Granges and your Jai Bryans, and then your midfield. So yeah, it's a tricky one. Don't worry, mate. We've had that. It's probably one we've put a fair bit of thought into. And yeah, but look, we're getting to it's we need to make a decision. So, we're talking to Dylan. He knows what he needs to do. And, we'll possibly play him this week. We're not 100% sure yet, so we'll just wait and see.
Hey, Wiggsy, you want to talk about your opposition on Saturday, Port Fairy? They've been one of the real stories of the season, and I've got to say personally, I'm probably a little surprised at just how rapidly the improvements come. We saw them a few weeks ago, and they stormed home and drew a game with Cobden. And I reckon since then, they really have had belief and they've had confidence. Have you, as a coach of another side in the competition, have you been surprised at just how quickly they've come on at Port?
Oh, look, mate, I think the whole season, you've got, you talk about that, and then you talk about your Trang Mortlake, and you talk about saving your Camperdown and your Cobden. So, look, number one, I think they've got a person in charge, like with Dusty, who, and I know Dustin pretty well, footy smarts, very good. But also, I remember when he was captain at Warrnambool, I was talking to someone about this recently, he was that captain, but he was the first one to be at a social function and probably the last one to leave. So I've got no doubt that the Port Fairy guys will be having lots of fun. And, winning's, when you're winning, it's more fun as well. So, and they've always been the type of side that once they get in a bit of a roll and they feel like they've got a bit of momentum going, then they're really hard to stop either on a Saturday or just as the season goes on. So I think once they started, even I reckon early on, they really pushed Terang over at Port Fairy, and that was a bit of a wow. This is when Terang Mortlake were going really well, and Port Fairy, I think, probably should have won it. Probably to be honest, I think Terang Mortlake won by about 9 points or something, but that would have given them a lot of belief. And then you've got people again like Jason Rowan. I was watching a bit of footage yesterday, and his impact in terms of on that group. And then you've got young Pollock and Myers and those guys coming through. So, and then you've got your Mirkoviches and your Sullys and Colin Harwood who's back playing, Isaac Martin. So, and even Andy McNeil. So they've got a really nice blend now of experience with some youth. But obviously, Dusty's been able to harness that all together. And again, they seem like a happy team playing for each other. So, yeah, and again, I think you've said at the start of the year, this is where they're going to be. I think a lot of people would go, that would be a stretch, but they've been terrific. So, look, a little bit surprised, but again, you look at the people who are there and you sort of go, well, not so much of a surprise.
Wiggsy, you've got an exciting few weeks coming up, mate. It all starts this week, of course, over at Gardens Oval against Port Fairy, and an opportunity to try and consolidate that third spot on the ladder. It's going to be a great run home. I know you'll accept the challenge, and the boys out there at North will accept the challenge. All we can do now is wish you all the best, mate, for the rest of the season. Thanks for joining us tonight, and good luck on Saturday.
No worries. Good on you, boys. Thanks.
See you, mate.
Good on you, Adam Dowie. He's a superstar, right?
Oh, he's a star.